Top of the morning to everybody. Today we are going to work exclusively in motion. I'm going to make a title that we use for a segment called Minutos Para Ti that airs in the mornings. And you can see here, these are the templates that I've already created for it. If I go to Final Cut Titles and I search for Minutos, I'll find these little these things here. The one I'm looking for in particular is this Minutos Para Ti 2 lines. You can see how it enters. You can see the font size and style. This has a different font style than the other one, and I like this one better. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open it. And it opened in the wrong screen. Okay, here it is. Now if I fit the window, then I can see there's type text here, type text here. These are the two things that I have. Okay. The top title is quite typically the name. So we'll do the first name of the first person. And then the title of the first person is nothing more than that for this particular one. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Now you notice this is a full screen title and not just this part. The reason I do this is because when we do this in the playout system that we're going to use for this particular show, it needs to have the full screen. If it doesn't, it will play this full screen. And so if I have a small box right here and I just have the title there, this small box becomes the entire screen and it stretches to fit. So it's really kind of annoying. Okay. So now that I have it, let's go ahead and share it. If I do export movie, it will export it as a ProRes 422 file with no alpha channels, and it will be annoying as heck. If I export using compressor settings, something's wrong with my computer right now and it doesn't quite work. I have no custom settings and it's annoying. So I'm going to send to compressor. And compressor will open. Now by default, because of what I do every single day, I have these three settings that come up, but I don't want those. I'm going to delete them. And if I look down here in my custom settings, I have one set up here called animation with alpha. I have another one that's meridian with alpha that works really well. But in this particular case, I'm going to stick with animation with alpha. And I'm going to drag it and drop it in here. Now, let's go over some of the settings with the animation with alpha and see what it says so that we can get an idea of what's going on here. Okay. First off, the duration is 100% of the source, so it's going to be 10 seconds long. The format is video, and location and things we're not going to worry about. If we go over to video here, we need to see the frame size. Remember I was talking about that box. Okay. Well, because of that box, we want our frame size to be 1920 by 1080. Anything smaller, it will stretch to fill 1920 by 1080. Aspect ratio, we're going to leave it 1. Frame rate, we'll leave it 29.97. And the field order, we'll leave it as same as source, which is progressive right now. I leave all of these things here. Now, here's where my real settings come in. QuickTime settings. Right now, the compression type is animation. And the reason I chose animation is because even though it's a large codec, it's very uncompressed. I don't have any issues with it playing out of a Kona card. And this is what I'm using to put these things, to key them into the video. I'm using another Mac with a Kona card. With animation, I also get an alpha channel. If I were to use something like ProRes, I would not get an alpha channel. DV does not have an alpha channel. DVC Pro, H.264, HDV, very few codecs actually have alpha channels. But animation does. Avid Meridian Compress does as well. And I love this codec, but it doesn't play well with the Kona card, so I'm going to stick with animation. These ones do not have alpha channels, and they require a mat. Okay, I'm going to cancel this and bring it back up so we can see. I have my keyframes as automatic. The computer actually does a really good job of making the keyframes and not compressing it too much. You can change these so that they're all keyframes and you have a huge file, or every so many frames, and you'll be able to visibly see when it starts doing the compression. For the most part on this one, there isn't a lot of compression because there's not a lot of movement. But so I leave it on automatic. The computer can kind of take care of the rest. Frame rate I leave as current because everything I do is in 29.97. So the depth, millions of colors plus. This is where the alpha channel comes in. If you don't have this plus on here, you will not get an alpha channel. The plus shows the transparency of the items. So here where it's transparent, and here where it's even more transparent, will be transparent with the plus. And then I always want it the best quality. Why would you want less than best quality? For broadcast, we want it the best quality. If I was sending it to YouTube or putting it on the web or sending it to somebody through email, I might go with the lower quality so I can get smaller files. But with broadcast, the bigger the better. That's kind of what you want. Okay, cropping and padding, since it's already 1920 by 1080, there's no reason to do any cropping or any padding. It's going to be a 16 by 9. We just leave it that way. All right. My resize filter, since there's no resizing, I don't even worry about it. And I have no video effects on it. Okay, now, one of the most important things I need to do is name it. What I usually do, and I didn't do this right, is I'll put the date that it's going to air and then the name of the person. Okay? I'm going to process this on this computer. I cannot segment this because it's being processed out of motion. So I can't go to my cluster. So I just process it on one processor, but it's extremely fast. So it's nothing to worry about. Watch how fast this is. This is in real time here. I'm not even going to stop it and change it or anything. Takes a little bit to get started, but once it gets started, it should be done in just a few seconds. So, and yeah, I did not change anything. I did not speed it up or anything like that like I usually do. I just let it go ahead and process. So let's go ahead and close it, and we do not save. The reason is you don't want to have this on there every single time you open it up. You want to have the same titles you had before. Now, what I'm going to do is I will show you these titles real quick. I hate when this does this. Here we go. Okay, here are the titles in this compressed folder. This is what they look like. Wow, that's not what they look like. We'll open it up in MPEG Stream Clip. And you can see what one of them looks like. Now you don't see the alpha channel here. And that's where the fun stuff comes in. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder with the date. And I'm going to put them all in there. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm just going to transfer this entire folder over to another computer. We call it SOCA. So I'm going to send it to SOCA's Spot Transfers folder. And it's copying right over there now. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for just a bit because I'm going to queue up some other things. And that way we can see what's going to happen. Okay, so right now I am actually remote controlling the other computer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this little guy right here, AJA Control Panel. And we are going to take a look at the different settings that the control panel has in the presets. There's one here that says key out. If I double click it, what happens is my input becomes here and my output becomes two separate channels stuck together. Okay? Now this is really important because if you look over here on this other screen, you can see things coming in and stuff like that. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these and open them with a program called AJA TV. And this will output these as titles. And using that key out, it takes that alpha channel and creates a mat. So if you look over here on my multi-display right now, you will see that I've got a title and a mat. The title is on the top and the mat's on the bottom. Okay, now if I hit my DSK or my downstream keyer, you'll see that title come up on the top onto that guy sitting there, right? And as you can see, there's some transparency information in this file. Now, I know it's not the cleanest title in the world. I did throw it together pretty quickly because we needed to do something quickly, but this is what it looks like. So what I'm doing is I'm using the AJA Kona card that's coming out of this second Mac and using it in conjunction. Well, I'm using the two outputs that it has, one to output the video and the other to output the alpha channel together so that I can use my switcher to key them together. Okay, now let me show you what the switcher looks like. It's an ATEM switcher. This is the software that I use, but I actually have a physical switcher board. Okay, and the way it's set up right now is I have input 2 out on the air. Let's put 1. There we go. We're going to put 1 out on the air so there's some motion. All right. And we can switch them using this if we want. No big deal. But I've got my key on. See that right there? I'm not clicking this. I'm hitting the button over on my switcher. Okay. Now, if I go in here and I see my downstream key settings, this is where I can make the settings. You can do this on the switcher too, but it's a lot more difficult. Right here, the fill source is Router Studio 4. Now, let me pull my router up as well. Okay, this is my router. It should have some better icons on it, but if I look at Router Studio 4, I can see that the MC Mac, or the Mac that I'm using over here, is the one that's being sent to it. Studio 3 is High Vision from KSNV. Studio 2 is High Vision from Phoenix. Studio 1 is our program out right now. Usually I have it set up so that the cameras, if we're on the balcony, will be 1 and 2. But for now, just so that we have some video, because there's nothing coming from those other ones, we're going to do it like this. Okay? So Studio Router 4 is MC Mac. So then what's happening over here is this is going out to MC Mac into Studio Router 4, and this is going out to my key out. Okay, so let's show the ATEM software again. Studio Router 4 is my fill source, which is the color part, and the key source is MC Mac key. This is the second output right here. That's called MC Mac key, and that's what's in the switcher itself. Okay, and you can use these things to adjust it, but for the most part, it's just automatic, just goes on its own. Now, if I had another computer, I would be able to do another downstream keyer with this, but I don't have it, so I'm not going to worry about it. So I'd be able to do 2 levels with this if I had another machine to do it with. All right, so this is what it looks like on the multi-monitor. Let's take this multi-monitor and switch it to another screen real quick. All right. So right now we're watching another show, and that's what the title looks like. And that's not Luisa Fernanda, but that's what the title would look like coming on over it. Now, if I were to replay the title, I could sit here and switch it in and out, fade it in and out, so on and so forth. So as long as this is on key out, I get color channel from this one, white alpha channel from this one, using these settings that we just used. So it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Let's put that one on. Now, it does kind of go goofy on us, so we do have to be careful. Watch. When I switch it, it automatically switches. You want to let your titles finish out, though. If you don't, you need to turn your keyer off, and then you need to move them either to the beginning or the end of the title so you don't have some goofy stuff happen to you. Okay. The other thing you don't want to do is mix codecs. If you mix codecs and you're doing this AJA TV out stuff, when you mix codecs, it will throw you off so bad. Sometimes it'll just stop playing things. Sometimes it'll go green. So you do have to be very careful with that. All right. So that's why I stick with that animation codec. It works real well with the AJA TV. I don't have any problems with it. Okay, so that's all for now. I don't think I'm going to do any other lessons on the switcher or anything like that for a little while. I just wanted to kind of show you the routing that I have, how it's working, how to create the title, which are really easy, where to put them, and how to play them out. All right? So I thank you very much for watching.